Hey, what's up guys? This is DestinedCat bringing you another Magic the Gathering video. Haven't made one of these in quite a while. The last time I made a Magic video, which is the only one on my channel by the way, was with my Talon deck, which has gotten a lot of upgrades. I've gotten the new cards for that, and I'm probably gonna make a video on that deck again now that we got all the new cards in and all that. That video actually got a lot of views. I think it has like 800 views or something, which is much more than my other videos get. But today I thought we're going to focus on a different deck entirely. We're going to focus on one of my favorite decks. This is a new deck I've created. Haven't had this deck for too long, but I've known about it for a long time, and I really enjoy how it plays. And this is actually a very good build for it if you want to try it out. This is a very good deck list because it's very aggressive. It gets out there fast. It's hard to deal with. It's oppressive. It's stormy, it's combo-y, it's, combat focused. It's a very fun deck to build. If you don't know this commander, then you should, because he's currently probably one of the best mono red commanders you can build. Oh, excuse me, she is. Zada's actually a female goblin. But if you don't know what Zada does, she's a 4-mana, 3/3, legendary creature, goblin ally. And her text says, whenever you cast instant or sorcery spell that targets only Zada or Hedron Grinder, copy that spell for each other creature you control that the spell could target. For each copy targets a different one of those creatures. So basically what this means is, whenever you play a spell that targets Zada, she'll basically copy it to all her friends. All your other creatures get the same effect that she does. So a good example is if you have a card that, for example, says, I don't know, like give 1 mana and give target creature haste and draw a card. Suddenly this becomes 1 mana, give all your creatures haste, and draw as many cards as you have creatures on the battlefield, which is completely nuts and really puts mono blue to shame when it comes to drawing cards. This deck draws fucking the whole deck within the first, when it gets going, it just draws the entire deck pretty much. Played a game where I had 22 cards left in my deck within turn 6. It's fucking mental. This deck is so much fun to play, by the way. If you want to look for a cheap commander to build, Zada is a very good pick. She's currently very cheap to build, especially because a lot of the cards in this deck aren't played in any other lists, and also she's a blast to play. Although you can lose if you don't win the game quick. It's a very aggro deck, very aggro focused and combat focused deck, but it's very fun to play. So let's get into it right away. So I got 33 lands here. Most of them are mountains, and there's a good reason for that. You really want to have red mana so you can play your spells, because you need a lot of red mana to play your spells, because every spell costs 1 red at least, because they're so cheap. So you don't want a lot of cards that make colorless mana. But you do have a few. I got Ancient Tomb, which is very good because it adds 2 mana for just 1 land, and it does still 2 damage to you, but who the fuck cares, because you're playing commander, so it's not really gonna matter. But it does add 2 mana and deals 1 damage to you, 2 damage to you, excuse me, which means you can get Zada out on turn 3 if you play 2 other mountains than this thing, and Zada out on turn 3, which is very good. Just mana ramp. We got a Reliquary Tower, which is very good in this deck because you draw so many cards. Sometimes you don't want to discard your hand at the end of the turn. Although sometimes you don't really need it because you might actually win the same turn that you're drawing that many cards. Then we got Mutavault, mainly here just because it becomes a creature, which helps Zada a lot, because then you got another creature that can get targeted, which means that you get more buffs, draw more cards, do more shenanigans. Then we got Nykthos, which is a card that I'm planning on taking out, probably because it's not that good. But sometimes it does add quite a bit of mana, which is not bad at all. So that is... that means there's 29 mountains, and then 4 non-basics. Probably gonna add more land creatures, like creatures that become land, but land become creatures, but I don't have them at the moment, so I can't add them. But that is basically the land base. Now let's go into the rest of the deck. I've divided this up into different categories and what the cards are doing for the deck. So the first category is board wipes, and we only got 1, and that is Blasphemous Act. Just in that situation where you're playing against an elf deck that's about to go off or something, and you might lose your board, but at least the opponent is losing their board as well. Usually you don't use this if you're about to go off, but if you're dealing with a tricky board, there might be enough creatures on the battlefield for this to be useful. So it's mainly there for disruption, not really for any other reason, because you normally want to wipe your own board away, but sometimes you have to in order to stay in the game and not lose. So it's there. Then we got Magus of the Moon. which is 3 mana 2/2 that says non-basic lands or mountains. It's very good against those greedy, 5-color decks that try to play like, a million fucking non-basic lands and, dual lands and all that kind of thing. Just a flat out, you can't tap your lands for anything other than red mana. Very powerful against those kind of decks. Same thing with Blood Moon. Oh, by the way, Magus of the Moon is also a creature, which makes it slightly better than Blood Moon in this deck because it does, get more buffs. Blood Moon, because it does the same as Magus of the Moon, so it's like having 2 Blood Moons basically. Classic card, and it's very useful. You should play it in a moon red deck that you can, because it's just really good against those multicolor decks. Then we got the only tutor in the deck, which is Gamble. Only red tutor, I think there exists. There's Burning Wish, but I don't really qualify that as a tutor. And it doesn't really do anything in Commander, but Gamble is fine, especially if you have like a giant hand. It just becomes insane, because then there's no chance you're gonna discard that card that you tutored for. So and it's also very nice in the beginning of the game to find like a Soul Ring or a Mana Crypt or some kind of mana excel that you need, or any kind of draw spell or something. So Gamble is definitely a card that I'm not planning on taking out anytime soon, even though it is kind of risky to play. It's still very good. Then we got the only combo in the deck, which is Dualcaster Mage. And this is a combo with Heat Shimmer and I forget the other card, but basically what you do, you play Heat Shimmer on a creature, then you play Dualcaster Mage while it's on the stack. Dualcaster Mage makes a copy of Heat Shimmer, and Heat Shimmer makes a copy of Dualcaster Mage, which makes a copy of Heat Shimmer, which makes a copy of Dualcaster Mage, which makes a copy of Heat Shimmer. Basically looping this infinitely until you get a bunch of 2/1 hasty Dualcaster Mages that can just attack and kill everyone right on the spot. Obviously this is the best way to end the game, because it doesn't require too much thought, and it doesn't require too much build up or anything. It's not the most fun way to end the game, but it is the most quick. So that's the only combo there is in the deck. Alright, moving on to the mana ramp. And this is the mana that kind of stays on the battlefield, because there's a lot of mana in this deck that once you play it, it's gone when you go to the next phase, and that's basically just there to basically win the game when you have a bunch of creatures in play, and you can just make a bunch of mana, play a bunch of spells, buff all your creatures, swing for a game, kill everyone in one turn. That's really what the deck is trying to do, kill everyone in one turn. But of course you gotta run Mana Crypt. I finally got my hands on this one. It is from the what's it called, Mystery Boosters, so it's a little bit cheaper than the original Mana Crypt, but whatever, it's still Mana Crypt. Very important for Commander. Almost every deck that can runs Mana Crypt. Obviously it's a very expensive card, so if you don't have it, don't feel bad, but it does make the deck a lot better, so I recommend getting your hands on it as soon as possible. Also because you can just put in other decks, you don't need one of them, so you can just swap them around whenever you're playing with other decks, so it's a nice card to have. Then we got the stable Soul Ring, because Soul Ring is too good. Basically just a Mana Crypt for 1 mana that is the 0 that doesn't Lightning Bolt you every turn, might Lightning Bolt you, but it's still very worth playing. Then we got Fire Diamond. Obviously the Arcane Signet is better, but Arcane Signet is in my Tyrant deck, so I just thought let's just put Fire Diamond here. Still good. Comes into play tapped, but it does have 1 red, which is what the deck tries to do. Then we got Iron Mirror, which is fucking insane because it's a creature and it makes mana for you, so it does 2 things that you want to do in this deck. Makes mana and ups your creature count, which is really important. Hedron Crawler is also a nice card. It doesn't add red, which is very unfortunate, but it does add colorless, which can be useful. So yeah, it's a nice card to have. Then we got Ruby Medallion, which is very essential for the deck, just because it makes everything cost less, which is something you really want in this deck. Making all your red spells cost less is just kind of insane, and shouldn't be overlooked. So it does help with the deck strategy. Then we got Solemn Simulacrum. I'm sorry I have an ugly Solemn, but I didn't have a nice Solemn to put in here. But it's Solemn. Comes to play, you search library for basic land points, play battlefield tap and shuffle your library, and then when it dies you draw a card. It used to be a commander stable, not so much anymore, but in this deck it does do a lot of work. Just because it gives you more mana so you can play more spells, and it does up your creature count again, and when it dies, which is pretty relevant, it uses draw a card, so if you chump block something with it, you can just draw a card. Otherwise you can just use it to kill people if you buff it enough, so that's very nice. Alright, moving into the next category, which is protection. And this category needs to get more cards in it. I don't have a lot of cards for it at the moment, but it does help the strategy a lot, because the problem with this deck is that Zada just dies too easily, and then you just fucking lose the game, because everything Like, the deck doesn't work without Zada. Like, you can't win without Zada, pretty much, unless you have, like, the Dual-Caster Mage combo. But, yeah. We got Goblin... I don't know how to pronounce it. No one does, but it's a very good Goblin. It's a 1 mana, 0/2, that says you can sacrifice a Goblin to regenerate target creature. So, this deck makes a lot of Goblins. It makes a lot of creatures, but mainly Goblins. And being able to sack half your board to regenerate half your board is fucking crazy. And being able to sack your Goblin to regenerate your Zada is even more crazy. And being able to sacrifice this guy to just regenerate your Zada if you don't have another Goblin is also very nice. Because then you get like... You probably have like 2 removal spells to deal with Zada. So overall, I must include in this deck. It's too good not to play. Swiftfoot Boots. We can't play Lightning Greaves because Lightning Greaves gives Shroud. You really want Zada not to have Shroud because if you have Shroud, you can't target it with anything. And targeting Zada is how you're going to win the game. So Swiftfoot Boots is just 2 mana equipment, and then you can equip for 1 and it gives creature hexproof and haste. Mainly the hexproof part is what's really important. But the haste part can come in handy at some points, but yeah. Then we got it moving into the draw spells, or mass draw spells. We got Skull Clamp, pretty much just draw spells. We don't really have anything other than mass draw. Skull Clamp, essential for this deck because you make so many fucking 1/1s that equipping for 1 to draw, to kill it and draw 2 cards is, too good not to run, so we're obviously going to run Skull Clamp. Any token deck should run Skull Clamp, just saying, it's too good of a card. Then we got Expedite, which is moving into the first category of target spells. So the idea is you target Zada with this, and then Zada copies this spell to each other creature you control, and then you draw like 1,000,000 cards, and they all gain haste. So that's just, one of the cards that does it. Another card that does it is Crimson Wisps. It makes it red, which you don't really care about, but it does draw your cards. So again, you draw like 1,000,000 cards if you have a bunch of creatures. Panic is a weird one. Panic says you can only play it during combat. After blockers are declared? No, before blockers are declared. And you draw a card at the beginning of the turn's upkeep, and then equip creature, target creature can't block. Who cares? You just want to draw a card. I might take this out because you really want something that draws your card immediately, because you want to go off on the turn you draw a bunch of cards, so your Zada doesn't risk getting killed on next turn, on next rotation of the board, of the game, which is why Panic isn't that good. But I really want as much draw as possible. That's why it's in here. And there isn't that many. There's a bunch, but there's not enough to where you can just only play cards that draw you a card, immediately. All right, we got Renegade Tactics. Target creature can't block this turn, draw a card. Again, you put this on Zada. It's a sorcery, but yeah, you still play it because it draws your card. Then we got Spark of Creativity. Then you choose target creature and exile top card of your library, and you may have you don't care about the first part. The other part you care about is the one where you can play the cards revealed this way, exiled this way until the end of turn. It's not draw card, but if you're going off that turn, you don't really care if it's in your hand or in exile, as long as you can play the cards. So that's why you play it. Then we got Balduvian Rage, which is target creature gets +X/+0 until the end of turn, and you draw a card in King next turn's upkeep. Again, not nice that you don't draw the card immediately, but it's nice that you can buff your creature a lot. You can also just play it for 1 mana if you just want to draw the card, which is always good. Just give your early creatures +0 and then draw like 1,000,000 cards. And then at the beginning of next turn's upkeep, which is still very good, but not as good as drawing the cards immediately. Alright, next card we got Rile, which is one of the weaker ones because it deals 1 damage to a creature. So if they're 1/1s, they just die. So you really want to buff them first, and then you buff their toughness first, and then play this card, and then draw a bunch of cards. Chaotic Strike is next. You have to play this during combat, after blockers are declared. And then you choose target creature and flip a coin. And if you win the flip, that creature gets +1/+1 at the end of turn. So basically it gives all your creatures +1/+1 if you win the flip. But you have to flip for every one that you play, which is kind of annoying. But then you do get to draw a card. Then we got Accelerate, which is one of the better ones. It's just like Expedite. It's a more expensive Expedite, but it's still good enough to play. So you gain target creature gain haste, and you draw a card. Then we got Stun, can't block, draw a card. Still insanely good. And then we got one of the all-stars of the deck next, which is from Modern Horizons, which is Fist of Flame. Such a good card for this deck. You draw a card, and then until end of turn, target creature gets trample and +1/+0 for each card you draw on this turn. The trample part is very relevant, but what's also very relevant is the +1/+0 for each card you draw on this turn. This is kind of complicated, but every creature is going to get an additional +1/+0 from compared to the last one you targeted. So they're each gonna get like another plus. So the first one's gonna maybe get +5, the next one's gonna get +6, +7, +8, +9. And if you draw a bunch of cards with the other cards during the turn before you play this, your creatures are going to get massive, and you can just swing for win and basically kill everyone. The last draw spell we got is Boiling Blood, which is still very good, but it's obviously not as good as the others because it does cost 3 mana, but it's just target creature attacks turn favorable and you draw a card for 3 mana, so it's still good enough to play. Alright, so we're moving into our win conditions now, which is the buff spells. So we got Brute Force, which is +3/+3 for 1 mana, which is very relevant and can get in there and do some damage. Then we got +3/+0 and Haste, and then you can flashback it for free. This is a Reckless Charge. Very relevant. The flashback is insanely good, so that's why you play it. Then we got Rouse Them Up, which is +2/+0 and Trample. Which is very nice. So Trample is very relevant. +2/+0 is nice as well. But that is basically, just the core of the deck. You want to like buff all your creatures and then swing for game. Then we got Build to Smash, basically another one of those +3/+3. If it's an artifact, it does gain Trample, which is relevant because you do run some artifact creatures. So yeah, it's a very good card to play. Trample and Haste and Double Strike are the main keywords that you're really, trying to get at, because those are the strongest ones. Then we got Rush of Adrenaline, +2/+1 and Trample. Again, very relevant, especially the Trample part. But also the buff is very nice because you need a lot of damage to kill everyone in one turn because everyone starts at 40 in Commander. Then we got Titan Strength, which is +3/+1. And you get to scry one, which is extremely funny because you can just, scry a million. So you can like put exactly the card on top you want, and you can draw with another spell. So it's like you like scry like 10 or 20, and then you just like look through. You're like, I don't want that. I don't want that. I want this, and then you like put that on top. It's hilarious. It's basically like it becomes a tutor basically. Like it becomes like a vampiric tutor. You search for a card and put it on top basically. Like that's basically what the card says when you combine it with Zada. Absolutely insane. And +3/+1 is also very relevant. Then we got one of the All-Stars. Assault Strobe, which is just Double Strike. All it does against Double Strike, but like that's really all you want when you got a big board with giant creatures that just swing in. Double Strike. That's good game when you play that. When you play this when they're like +10, you play this and it's like that's good game. Then you only have to attack with like if they're +10, you only have to attack with like 2 creatures to kill everyone, to kill like 1 person. Since they have Trample, you just go in. You can't block it. You can't like stop the damage. Then we got one of the All-Stars as well. And we give it a Rampage, +4/+0 and Trample. You don't care about this part down here. You only care about the first part because you don't want to target more than one. You just want to target, one creature, which will be Zada. Then you got Teamwork Battle Rage, which is Double Strike again, just like Assault Strobe. But then if you have so what's it called? Oh my god, I just suck. Hold on. Ferocious, is that what it's called? Yeah, Ferocious. I'm sorry, guys. If you have a creature with power 4 or greater, it also gains Trample. So it's like a little candy, a little fucking cherry on top of the cake, So they both can Trample and Double Strike. Yeah, that's good. That's good game. This deck is so much fun to play, guys. All right, so we got Brute Strength, which is +3/+1 and Trample for 2 mana. Still, very good. Again, one of the All-Stars coming up is Downhill Charge. Basically, the red Force of Will in this deck. Because you can sacrifice a mountain instead of paying its mana cost. It costs 3 normally, but you can sacrifice a mountain to make it cost nothing. And then target creature gets +0 or X number of mountains you control. So you can just imagine that this is going to be a lot of fucking damage, because if you have like 5 mounts out there, you're getting +5/+0 for no mana. Obviously, you do give a little bit less if you sacrifice a mountain, but who cares? It's all about the damage, man. And you just hardcast if you really want to. Then we got one of the funnier cards, Spawning Breath. You deal 1 damage to target creature, and then you make a 0/1 Eldrazi that you can sacrifice for a colorless mana. Put this on Zada, and every creature takes 1 damage, and you gain like a 0/1 for each creature that you can sacrifice for mana, which is very relevant. Obviously, you want to buff your creatures first so you don't kill them with this, but in some situations, it can just go fucking crazy. Alright, so that was the... actually, this was part of the token generation. Excuse me, this was part of the token generation. we're done with the buff spells. The token generation is coming up, so this is the first card in the token generation category. So we got Young Pyromancer, which is another fucking all-star in this deck. Because you just make a, basically whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, you make a 1/1 red elemental. So basically whenever you cast one of your cheap spells, you just get a 1/1 elemental, which you can buff and then attack and give haste and things like that. So it becomes fucking insane. Young Pyromancer is like the most amazing red creature ever printed. It's like he's playing Legacy a lot. Such an amazing creature. Then we got Krang's Command. Just make 2 1/1 red goblins for 2 mana. Very good. It's very important that you go wide in this deck. You want to make as many creature tokens as early as possible. And then we got Dragon Fodder, which is just another Krang's Command. Just another, basically the same card. It is the same card, it's just another name. Goblin Instigator. He's a 1/1 for 2 that makes a 1/1 when he comes in. Again, you know, two creatures for 2 mana. I'll take it. As many creatures as possible is really what you want to be going for. Then we got Mog Marshal. He makes another goblin when he comes in. He has Echo, so you have to pay his mana cost next turn or he's sacrificed. But then he also makes a 1/1 when he dies, so he's basically like 3 goblins for 2 mana, essentially. Twin Flame is part of the combo with Dual Caster Mage, but also if you cast this on Zada, you can make a million creatures. You just put on Zada, then this they makes a copy of Zada, and then it makes a copy of every other creature you have. Then you could, especially if you have like token generation, you can make tokens as they come in, and then you just fill your board with a bunch of creatures for 2 mana, which is fucking insane. Love this card. And then we got Heat Shimmer, which does the same thing for 3 mana, and again comes with Dual Caster Mage. So again, it's just a very nice card. Make a bunch of tokens. Then we got the only Planeswalker in the deck, which is Chandra, Aikalata Flame. Every ability she has is relevant. Her 0 ability gives every red Planeswalker a loyalty counter, so that's basically a +1 in this deck anyway. Then you got her another 0, which makes 2 1/1 red elementals that die at the end of turn, but you don't care, you just gain 2 red elementals. And then her -2 is fucking insane, because it says you can play instant sorcery, you convert mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard this turn. Exiled it at the end of turn. Excuse me. Which is like really relevant, because you can cast all your big spells again, and then draw a bunch of more cards, or do whatever you want. Then we got Handwear Garrison. It flips, but you don't really care about that. It's just a 2/3 that when it attacks, it makes 2/1 red humans that are also attacking. Basically, put more bodies onto the battlefield. Hoddling Outburst makes 3 1/1 red goblins. Again, very relevant. One of the better cards because it makes 3 for only 3 mana. Then we got Make Mischief, which is basically the same as Spawning Breath. It just makes devils instead, and then when they die, they deal 1 damage to target creature or player. And then it does the same as basically Spawning Breath. Deal 1 damage to a creature and then make a 1/1. Again, you make a bunch. One of the all-stars in the deck again, we got Empty Warrants. Again, you cast a bunch of spells, then you trigger Storm, and then this spell gets copied for each spell you've cast, which becomes fucking insane. So Empty Warrants is definitely one of the best spells in this deck, just because you make so many goblins, and then you can, buff them all or do all kinds of other shenanigans. Then we got Emicus Hatcher, which makes 3 0/1 creatures that you can sacrifice for mana. It draws his bonds, which is a really good card because it just gives you more mana as well, and gives you more creatures on the battlefield, so you can keep the pressure up, and you can use them to chump block, and you can sacrifice them response to make mana. It's just a very good card. Then we got Siegeking Commander, also a card that you would expect to see in this deck. Makes 3 1/1 red goblins when he comes into play. He's a 2/2 for 5. And you can sacrifice the goblin, and then he deals 2 damage to any target, which is also very relevant in a lot of situations. Just because, if you want to kill something with him, you can definitely do it as well. He's very good. All right, that is all the creature, generation, all the token generation in the deck. Now we're moving on to fast mana, the fast mana section, and this is all the cards that just make mana quickly. And then, disappears in the next phase, but you basically use this to combo off and kill everyone as quickly as possible. So we got Squirtle Prospector, which is, because you got so many goblins, he sacrifices a goblin to add 1 red. I play this on my Krang deck. Obviously, he's much bigger of a target there. He's also very good in this deck, but in Krang deck, he's pretty much just a combo enabler. In this deck, he's just a mana producer. So you sacrifice your little dinky goblins and make a 1 red, and you can play more spells and make more tokens, and you can just go off with him. Another card is Brightstone Ritual. Makes a red for each creature you control, each creature, each goblin in play, excuse me. So if you have a bunch of goblins, you just pay 1 mana to make like 10 mana, and you use that to play more spells, and you can just, go off, and you can storm, and you can do all kinds of things. Battle him, much the same, except it's a little bit better because it adds a red for each creature you control, not only goblins, so every creature you get 1 red mana, which is insane. One of the best cards in the deck, Runaway Steamkin. Basically, whenever you cast a red spell, he gains a +1/+1 counter. Or it gains a +1/+1 counter. And then you can remove 3 of them to add free red. So basically what happens in this deck is that you play 3 red spells, you gain 3 counters, then you remove 3. Then you use that to play more spells, then you gain 3 more counters, then you remove those counters to gain 3 more mana. You can just keep this going as long as you have cheap spells. Absolutely mental. Goes completely insane. Like there's no stopping him. He just goes completely insane. If no one removes him, that is just it. He just goes fucking nuts and just kills everyone. Love this card. For Eviction also does the same as Squirtle Prospector, except you can sacrifice any creatures to add red. I'm not running the other card. What is it called? The one that adds 2 colorless when you sacrifice a creature. Ashnod's Altar, because it only adds 2 colors and you really want red in this deck. Then we got another Battle Hymn, basically. Dragon Rage. It adds 1 red to a mana pool for each attacking creature you control. And then you can, instead of turn, you can attack creature you control, gain +1/+0 for 1 mana. They're basically in Dragon Breathing, or Fire Breathing, but you don't care about that. The only thing you care about is just adding a bunch of mana so you can play more spells. So it's basically another Battle Hymn. Because a bunch of creatures, you add a bunch of red. Then we got the Kaiser Expertise, and this might be a little weird for you if you don't know this deck. But this is actually one of the best cards in the deck. So what it says is, gain control of target creature or vehicle instead of turn, untap it against haste instead of turn. You don't really care about gaining control of their creatures. You target Zada with this, so you gain control of your own Zada. Then this text down here, if you pay attention, is you may cast a card with commanded mana cost 2 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. Completely insane. So what happens is you copy this, as many times as you use creatures, then you can cast like 10 spells from your hand that cost 2 or less without paying its mana cost. And then you just fucking kill everyone at that point. Like, there's nothing you can do. And then we got, so basically like adding more mana with Kaiser Expertise. It's basically like adding a bunch of mana, but it's just makes everything cost nothing. Then we got Inner Fire. Adds 1 red for each card in your hand. Again, completely insane because you draw so many cards in this deck that, you'll add like 20 mana, or you'll add like 30 mana, or 40 mana, or whatever. It's not unlikely that you add like over 20 in any given situation because you've just drawn so many cards during this turn. Completely mental. Absolutely insane. Treasonous Ogre is also very devastating because you can pay 3 life to add 1 red. Again, you mainly want to use this to start the turn off, and then when you want to play, you want to like pay a bunch of life. You don't really care about, as long as you don't die, it's fine. And then you want to cast one of your fast mana spells to gain a bunch more mana, so you don't have to pay life anymore. So you mainly use them just to get started, so you have enough mana to get started, and then you can play more spells to gain more mana, and then you can just kill everyone. And then the last card in this section is Mana Geyser, which does much of the same. Adds 1 red for each tap land your opponents control. So if you're going last, which is something that you might want to be doing in this situation, then if they have like, let's say everyone has like 5 mana or 6 mana, then you add like 15 or 15 mana to your mana pool for 5, which is probably enough to kill everyone. Big chance of it anyway. And then the last section of the deck is Recursion, which is very important because my version of the deck doesn't actually want that many buff spells. And you need to buff your creatures a lot to kill everyone. So these cards basically enable you to play your spells more than once, and thereby buffing your creatures more, playing more big mana spells, all that kind of thing. So one of the all-stars here is Dreadhorde Arcanist, excuse me. So he has Trample, which is already good because you really want Trample in this deck. And he's a 1/3, and he says, whenever Dreadhorde Arcanist attacks, you may cast target instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost less than or equal to Dreadhorde Arcanist's power from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If the spell card will put into your graveyard from this turn, exile instead. So basically, it becomes a little Snapcaster Mage for red. Sometimes you don't really care that he has 1 toughness because a lot of your draw spells only cost 1 mana, or excuse me, 1 power. You don't care about he has 1 power because a lot of your cheap spells only cost 1 mana. But sometimes if you buffed him enough, which is not too hard to do in this deck, you can cast like Mana Geyser from your graveyard, or not Mana Geyser, but you can cast like Battle Hymn from your graveyard, or you can cast Dragon Rage from your graveyard, You can cast Mana Geyser because Mana Geyser is a sorcery, and this guy, when he attacks, so you're in attack steps, you can't cast sorceries, but still, just a very good card. Then we got one from the new Pharaoh set, Pharaohs Beyond Death, Onward Reach, which gives every non-land card in your graveyard escape, which means that you have to exile 3 other cards to play it. What's so insane about this is that the card doesn't actually go to your to exile after you've played it. It just goes back to your graveyard, which means you can play it again and again as long as you exile 3 other cards. So you can play like, Invigorated Rampage a bunch of times and then give them every creature double strike and they'll swing for win. Absolutely insane. A lot of Zada decks don't run these recursion, spells and enchantments and creatures, but I think they're very essential to make the deck work. It just, kills everyone quicker and makes it so you don't have to draw a bunch of, buff spells to carry one one-turn. And then the last card in the deck is Past in Flames, which is 4 mana, and each instant sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. And it also has flashback for 5. The flashback cost equal to the converted mana cost of the card that you're flashbacking. So basically what this means is that you can cast all your spells real quick, buff all your creatures, then you can cast this, and then cast all your spells again. And then, when they get exiled, you can at that point you should probably have won the game. Let's be honest. So that's the deck, guys. By the way, My Little Pony playmat. Gotta love them ponies. Alright, other than that, thank you guys for watching. This was my Zada Hedron Grinder deck. If you are looking for a cheap commander deck to build that wins fast and doesn't cost a lot to build, I said that twice, didn't I? No, man. Then build Zada, because Zada is a lot of fun to play, and Zada is just that much more fun. So hope you guys enjoyed this deck tech. I'll upload my new improved Tower deck as well when I get the time. But until next time, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you're enjoying the videos that I'm currently uploading. Goes to Shimmer is the main game I'm uploading at the moment. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. This is Destiny Cat, signing out.